This is the S1S podcast, episode 5.
The Stage 1 Startup Podcast is launching in T-minus 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1, 0. Prepare for liftoff.
Welcome to the Stage 1 Startup Podcast for startups and aspiring entrepreneurs to find out what it takes to launch any business idea from stage 1 to success. Now, for your hosts, live from the UK, Nichols and Morley.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Stage 1 Startup Podcast, episode 5. You are tuned in with your hosts, Bradley Morley and Greg Nichols. Greg, once again, it's that famous question that I love to ask.
And I love answering it, to be fair.
So how excited are you right now to do this show?
Today's guest is absolutely brilliant. I know he's got tons of value, and to be fair, I think I'm peaking at 10. That is how excited I am right now.
I think I can join you on that level. So today we have the pleasure of interviewing somebody amazingly valuable. So let's dive in. It's time to ship over to Greg to tell us who today's special guest is.
Sure, I'm absolutely buzzing to kick this one off today. We have an amazing guest who is shaping the way we look at our careers. Today's guest is the CEO and founder of an innovative career improvement company called Pilot. Pilot is revolutionizing the way individuals take control within their careers by bringing them the best resources and advice that were previously only available through expensive one-on-one career coaches or controlled, focused HR departments. Pilot is an online, easy-to-use platform which focuses on giving real-world advice and tips that empowers individuals to take control of their professional careers, something that we can all take value from. When reading about today's guest and Pilot, it really did strike a chord with me because Pilot are here for the people and not for the money involved. Instead of pulling people away from their careers, him and his team work towards helping people be happy within their workplaces by renovating their jobs with a blueprint to becoming fulfilled. Pilot focuses on showing people the positives in what they do on a day-to-day basis when they've maybe lost some interest or lacking momentum. Okay, so I have also done some digging on today's guest. Brad, did you want to hear some fun facts about today's guest?
I'm always up for a fun fact. Please hit me with some.
Okay, so as a child, his favourite store was Office Depot. So you'd expect a child's favourite store to be something like Toys R Us. But it's all good because Office Depot has obviously shaped his career in some sort of way because he's very successful.
That's how you know that you've got some organisation as to what you want to be in life when you're already picturing what your office is going to look like or what station you're going to buy.
Exactly. So from dog kennels to call centres or spy planes to rental cars, he has seen many different opportunities. The one that spikes my interest the most, I think, is the spy planes because I'm a little bit of a geek. Aren't I, Brad?
You are a proper geek, mate. I'm not being funny.
What excites him is helping people realise their true potential, but he unexpectedly let go of his long-held aspirations to climb the corporate ladder and instead has chosen to fly his own plane.
I see what you did there. Because the company's called Pilot.
Because of the Pilot, yeah. This guy's vision is 100% in the right place, and I believe that everybody should take a leaf from his book. But enough from me, so let's hear from the man himself and today's guest, Mr. Ben Brooks. So Ben, hello and welcome to the show. Can you please add to that very brief introduction and just tell our listeners more about yourself and Pilot?
Awesome. Well, Greg and Brad, I'm really glad to be here. And I'm based in New York City. I live in the Chelsea neighborhood. I work in Flatiron in a co-working space, and I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Pilot, a tech startup that's helping motivated career professionals advance in their career and grow as professionals.
Perfect. So Ben, we obviously going to get more into the crux of what Pilot is, but can you just tell us a bit more about your journey, and did you start with Pilot or did you have a venture before that?
So, I've been involved. I started working when I was 12 years old, and I've done a whole variety of things as an employee. I think as an entrepreneur, I'm kind of an unexpected entrepreneur, and it found me. I didn't find it, and it was about 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago, I founded my first company, which is still in operation and very successful, which is to be a business coach, an entrepreneurial coach, helping other entrepreneurs start and manage their own companies. And so I've worked with people from tech startups and people in the arts, like fine arts or art dealing and advising, interior design and architecture, I've worked with nonprofits, community healthcare organizations, data scientists, you name it, but in a practice to be a long-term coach and advisor to help them grow their companies.
Great. I mean, that's brilliant, because one of the questions that are in our sort of in the round one of our questions is, was you always born entrepreneur, or was you an entrepreneur from the get-go? And I think that's good, because you basically just said, a lot of times our guests will kind of chase the entrepreneurial route, but you just mentioned that it's found you, and it just goes to show that becoming an entrepreneur isn't something that, you have to chase. It can just stumble across your path.
For sure.
So Ben, what we want to really get into here is why you specifically pinpointed Pilot as your business idea, why you didn't want to so much stick with the whole business coaching as your main thing. So tell us more about Pilot and why you pinpointed that as your thing.
Well, it kind of strings together back to the reason I am not in corporate America is, I was very successful in corporate America. I was the senior vice president and, top-rated performer, very well compensated, a lot of responsibility, winning awards, all those sort of things. But I wanted to have more impact. And so part of the reason I became a business coach was to have impact. Now, the challenge with my practice and the model in general is that there's a fixed number of hours I have in the day or in the week. One of the only fair things in the world, right? That we only get 24 hours in each day. And, there's a limit to the number of people that I can work with in an individual one-on-one sort of model, which caps my impact. So, the desire to help more people, I've had a sold out business for quite a while and a waiting list of people. And so, it's like I knew that there was more demand, obviously, for me and what I was offering than I could deliver just based on a pure time constraint. And I wasn't interested in really trying to create a professional services firm and duplicate myself out. I think it would be difficult. I've worked in consulting before and seen the kind of perils of that. You always have either too much business and not enough people, or too many people and not enough business. And you're just riding a kind of a seesaw back and forth constantly. So Pilot was an idea to, my friends, when I got into the business coaching business in the first place, said, listen to the market. I thought, what kind of weird economics thing are they talking about? And, they said, just like listen to people's problems and listen to what people are dealing with and what they talk about or what frustrates them, and see if you can help them solve that. And that's a great way to understand, kind of market needs and demand. Well, one thing that people have always asked me for is advice, and that's part of the reason I got into business coaching. But people always talk to me about their careers. And in general, most people I know that I would quote say on paper are quote unquote successful are a mess or miserable about their careers. And so I thought, gosh, there's this huge need for people to find satisfaction and fulfillment, acceleration, development in their careers, because it seems like now more than ever, despite the fact that people are, often making decent money or working for kind of very brand name companies and things, people are like deeply dissatisfied with work, which is something that occupies an incredibly large portion of most people's lives.
So is that because the companies that they're working for aren't fulfilling the needs of the employees, would you say?
Well, yeah, there's a huge macroeconomic shift that's happening around the world in developed countries in particular. But traditionally, in our parents' generation, there was what we call like a build talent model. You would grow talent. And so, men and women would go work for a company, and they'd work for an IBM or something like that, or they'd work for a Rolls Royce, and they would, work for the company and be loyal, and they get moved around the world and get promoted and go to leadership programs, but they would have an entire career. And they would retire and have a pension and a scheme and all that. And that was the model. And the company really was responsible for developing the employee. And in almost a maternal or paternalistic sort of relationship. What's happened is macroeconomically, we've moved to a buy talent model, from a build to a buy. What's happening is that, companies are merging and consolidating, industries are rising and falling, talent, millennials in particular, are staying at jobs less often. And so companies don't want to invest tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars into people that are going to leave. And so the onus and the density for responsibility in one's own development as a professional and a business person has rapidly kind of accrued to the individual away from the company. Plus, on top of it, institutions of higher learning, graduate school and undergraduate university, are less and less equipped to prepare people for the real world. The real world is accelerating and changing dynamically, and those institutions typically are very slow moving. And although they're wonderful and I had great experiences there, they're just not doing as good of a job of producing kind of real world ready graduates.
Now, we actually haven't heard of Pilot as a business model before, so it's very unique. Do you have any main competitors that are out there in the market that are doing the same thing as Pilot, or are you kind of like leading in this kind of field?
Well, if you kind of think, we in our brand strategy, we mapped out and we hired, consultants to help map out potential competitors. And the biggest thing, the biggest two things, one was, like a traditional career coach or sometimes a life coach or something like that. But career coaching being one of the competitors. And on the other end of the continuum is friends and family, or like books people were reading, but mostly people's friends and family. And so essentially people are giving kind of like one-off advice in an unstructured manner on the lower end, or in a more structured manner with a coach on the higher end. As it relates to technology, almost all of the money and innovation that's been spent in the space related to careers and jobs is about job switching. It's all about recruiting and moving. Generally, most of it's optimized around you going from one company to another to do the same job for a little bit more money. And that's kind of the state of it. There's thousands of recruiting technology companies out there that have been built, and a lot of money keeps being poured into there, and there needs to be more because it's certainly not fixed or optimized in a good way. We decided with Pilot, though, that like the market was wide open related to job success, related to career strategy and things. You can have a problem with your, emotional intelligence or your style or how you manage your manager, or not know how to manage a project, or even know what your motivations are. And you can go to a competitor and have the same problems. It's kind of like you could move from London to Barcelona, but you're still you, and you still have your issues. And so what we wanted to do was actually help people address the root causes of things that block them or stop them in their career, and accelerate them on the things that matter most to them, which sometimes companies may or may not be interested in. And so we were very focused on, in the market, not just merely, swapping out jobs like you would swap out a partner, but really focus on making it work and understanding kind of the core needs and motivations.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I think there's one particular question that I'm going to try and link up here. One of our followers on social media, because obviously we post a lot of motivational stuff, and there was one particular thing that really stuck out to me. I posted a list that was a difference between an employee and an entrepreneur in terms of attitude towards business and everyday life. And one of the things that is quite commonly used for entrepreneurs is that they tend to hire smart people to do perhaps the areas of the job that they can't particularly do. And one of the people that follow us came back to me and he said, what would you recommend in the sense that, what if other companies out there, the competition, approach you and are stealing the smart people that work for you? And this is where I want to try and crack it down on what your business focuses on. And my response was, you can come back to me with what your complete reviews of what I said was, make your company fun as hell. In actual sense, I said fun as fuck. Make your company really fucking fun. So these people don't want to leave your workplace. They're happy, they're fulfilled, they enjoy working with you. They've got a passion for working in that business. And, he was quite glad with the response I said and said, I agree with that. What's your sort of thoughts on that? Do you think that's where it sort of links with what Pilot's business model is? But make it, keeping the passion alive within your business?
Yeah, so in a minute I want to talk to you about intrapreneurship, which is a whole different competency, being an entrepreneur inside of a company as an employee, which is a very cool way to learn how to be an entrepreneur while being paid by someone else. But let me answer your question directly first. So the thing is that with retention and people, people will leave to other companies and say, oh crap, we got to, what do we do to stop the outflow of people, right? And it's always generally a top-down thing. So it may be passion or fun. We need to make this place more fun, right? Or it may be we need to pay people more, or we need to give people more time off, or we need to have better food in the cafeteria, or we need to have better office chairs, or buy everyone an iPhone, right? There's usually some sort of top-down thing that's attempted because managerially it's efficient. Whatever you pick, you just roll it out, and everyone gets it, It's almost like almost like a government mindset, right? But the problem is retention is highly personal. So when I think of my corporate days, the reason that my administrative assistant stayed at the company and the reason that I stayed at the company were very different reasons. The reason the CEO stayed at the company versus the CFO were different reasons. And so organizations tend to homogenize retention strategies when retention is highly personal and highly specific and unique to the individual. So what Pilot did is we said, well, gosh, okay, rather than resisting that and trying to create the next big mass rollout thing, Hawaiian Shirt Day or whatever it may be, we thought, well, gosh, what if we enabled people, employees, actually put employees in charge of their own happiness and in partnership with their managers, but we had them understand what's their unique algorithm and what are the things that matter to them. If you're a working parent, it may be around balance. It may be that you need to get out of work at a certain time, and that's what works for you, is the fact that you can be at your kid's sports game in the afternoon and see that. If you're maybe a young person who wants to really learn a lot and you really need good developmental feedback and you want to be challenged a lot, that's a totally different thing. It may be flexibility. It may be that you don't care what the conditions are, you want to just make a lot of money. That's a totally different reason. So these different archetypes of people want different things, so it's important to have the employee have a sense of what's most important for them, because what often gets kind of dumbed down is people say, okay, well, I'm not really happy, and if someone across the street will pay me 15% more, I guess I'll be unhappy over there but have more money, which isn't a very good strategy, which is how most people manage things. And people are miserable enough, they say, well, at least I can buy a nicer suit, or go on a better holiday, with a little bit more money. And so what Pilot did, we created this really cool product called the Job Renovator, and it allows people to transform their current job, essentially to give themselves a new job without leaving their job. And it puts you through an assessment to understand what's dissatisfying. It's a job health assessment. What specific research-based dimensions of like what makes people happy or unhappy at work. You see how well you're doing across 8 of those, and then you get customized coaching and through videos and audio clips and things in a condensed, super potent experience, and you build your own action plan. It's a blueprint. It's a strategy that's beautifully designed that has you be at the center of pulling to you the things you need to make your job more satisfying, which if you lined up 10 employees, they probably would have 10 very different blueprints because they're very diverse in different people in that regard.
I think that's such an innovative idea. It's really helping people, stay focused and really make them feel that what they're doing on a day-to-day basis isn't going unnoticed. And I just think the whole concept of Pilot is brilliant. So, kudos to that.
Definitely.
Well, thank you. And I think that the comment you put on the commenter on your post about that article, I think what's interesting is it needs to be a shared responsibility between the employer and the employee. And that's what we're trying to level the playing field a little bit, is one, to empower the employee, but also to put a little responsibility on their shoulders, that it's not just, you can imagine in a marriage, if, someone was unhappy and it was just only one person was responsible for making them happy, like both people have to work at that relationship to make it work. And I think that oftentimes it's like, well, what is the company going to do? And it's always about the company, but, oftentimes it's what is the employee going to do? Sometimes, if people, will have, let's say, like they don't have a piece of software they need or their computer's always breaking down. Well, if you ask them, hey, have you requested a new computer? Have you put a ticket in? Have you gotten it fixed or seen if it's under warranty, or asked your boss if you could buy a new one? And, 9 times out of 10, the answer is no. So they're not and their boss would probably approve it. That's what I mean. I had someone, I tell this story in the Job Renovator, that I had this employee who was a hardworking, good employee. She had a BlackBerry. This is, a few years ago when people still use BlackBerries. And they had that little scrolling ball thing in the middle of it that had like popped out. And it's a fairly new BlackBerry. And she came in like with her head hanging down, and she's like very apologetic about the fact that her BlackBerry is broken. I asked her how long. She said it had been a month. Well, she was working her butt off. I don't even know how she used the thing without the little scroller ball thing. And so she'd waited a month and then was super apologetic. And I said, well, first of all, the thing's going to be under warranty of a brand new BlackBerry, so this is stupid. And number two, our contract with AT&T, our mobile provider, provided us free unlimited BlackBerries whenever we wanted. It was like part of our contract. And so I got her one literally FedEx the next day, but yet she suffered with bad technology for a month because she didn't ask me. And how am I? It's in her purse. I don't know if her thing's broken, So that's a great example of like employees need to advocate for themselves and their needs, and it's not against the company. It's not like the company loses. The employee has to make sure that the company and their manager in particular knows what they need to get their job done, because that's part of the psychological contract. And so that's a big part of the message in the Job Renovator, is the employee really taking hold of their own happiness.
I completely agree with that. and the scenario you just gave there. And like you said, it is a two-way street. And in actual fact, you just reminded me on that same post, I did actually put 2 points, not to that extent, obviously, but I did, as well as saying that, I did sort of say, you need to know what your employees want as well, what they're there for. Are they there because they truly love the business model, that the job that they're doing, or are they just going to be driven by the money side of things? Because obviously that's what pulls a lot of people away, isn't it? Unfortunately, there's just the money. People see the money and they jump and think, I'll jump ship, I'll go over there, and it doesn't really lead to any more fulfillment. Just gives you a bit more money in your purse and you end up spending it anyway.
And frankly, when you jump for money, what people don't realize is that, with reward comes risk. So you can go to a different company that pays more, but why are they paying more? Are they paying more because they have to, because they have a crappier brand, worse products and services, a more toxic work environment? People always think that they're a better company, they pay more. Sometimes the best companies don't have to pay the most. Jack Welch, who led General Electric, they were a very mid-market payer. They didn't pay a ton because they offered incredible leadership development, high growth, great benefits, global relocation, all these things. They weren't the top payer in the market. If you wanted to make the most money, you didn't go work for General Electric. But if you wanted to have a great career, you totally worked for General Electric. And so that's the thing, is that people don't, always consider. They say, well, I'm going to go across the street for a few more quid. I'm going to chase that. It's like, no, I don't, what you have to realize is that you have to learn a new manager that you hopefully get along with. You don't know what your systems or technology are going to be, what your authority is. Were you able to book a business trip before if you just needed to, or now do you have to go, write a proposal and get it approved? Where are you going to sit? What's the commute like? What are your benefits? Or what's the training and development? Do your customers like your products and services? What's the financial footing of the company? Are there freezes on things? There's all sorts of things that people don't consider when they jump ship. They just think, oh, I'm going to make 10% more, but they don't consider that maybe in an environment that there is no way, if you stacked up all those other things, that it'd be worth 10% more.
Mm. Okay, so, going back to the early days in Pilot, how much time did you invest in building the idea in the startup stages?
So the challenge was I launched my coaching business, and that was my focus in terms of that's where I made my money. In Pilot, I've self-funded. I'm the sole founder and the CEO, and I'm the sole investor. I'm the 100% owner of the company. And so that means that's all my money that I use to start that, which is great because I've been able to do whatever I want to do. But but it's also my life savings. I had a house that I sold and everything. I'm very all in on the company. And so I came up with the idea around the same time that I started my coaching business, but I just knew, the coaching business was a low capital intensivity business that generated, very high margins very quickly. And I got to learn and grow as a professional. And basically I got paid in a wonderful way to learn and network from my other clients about what their business challenges were, which has made me a much better entrepreneur. So I started working on Pilot in the background, for, really at an intense clip for probably about a year and a half, a little bit more before we launched. So it was, and with staff and consultants and this and that. And so it takes a long time to get a technology. When you're building, technology and software applications, things, it takes a while. And so it took a while, about a year and a half of me working on it, kind of part-time as the founder, along with a variety of staff and other resources to get it off the ground.
Yeah, so in a sense, Pilot was your side hustle at that time.
Yeah, Pilot was absolutely my side hustle. And right now, I describe, people say, well, how do you split your time? I say, well, I spend 75% of my time being a business coach, and I spend 75% of my time on Pilot.
Break that theory down for us.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it takes, right? Because there's the sacrifice. I did a podcast on my own just on the sadness of sacrifice. That going all in on my dreams and being an entrepreneur sounds amazing, and it is. But what it means is I have to actively say no to a lot of things, including a lot of fun things, including weekends in the sun, drinking and parties and trips and sports and activities, because I just need more hours in the day to generate revenue and to generate execution and results, related to both of my businesses. And so, there's, I don't know if the term FOMO, fear of missing out.
Yeah.
I said I don't have FOMO. I have straight up MO. I I'm just missing out, you know? And the thing is that like I'm missing out on certain things, right? And it may be that pool party that I always like to go to in July, or a certain trip or whatever else, or staying out late some night when I've got, you know, a very important podcast to record the next day like this, you know? But it may be, you know, but at the same time, I'm not missing out on learning a great deal and believing in myself and having fun with my own business and pursuing my dreams. So I'm missing out on certain things in exchange for others. And I think that people in particular with like creative and artistic sort of backgrounds really struggle with that because they want their finger in everything. They want to be involved. You know, they want to do 18 different things. And what happens is then you're really crappy at about 18 different things and everything's a hobby. You know, and for people to go, for me to make Pilot a success, which we're just early stages. It's not like Pilot's some wildly successful company. I'd like it to be, and we're working on it. And I'm committed to that, but it's new. And so it's, you know, I describe it as like, you know, having a baby. Like, you know, you launch, you're just so excited for launch, which is like the birth. But then after you have the baby, you're like, oh crap, now I got to feed it, and it needs to sleep every 2 hours, and I got to change its diapers, and it's like that kind of high maintenance. And so I can't be taking care of a baby if I'm out doing, you know, 18 other things in addition to running a second company. So it's a really, you know, it's a very sobering thing to have, you know, as a young person, an active person living in the middle of New York City, and I'm gregarious and extroverted and things, to have to say no to a lot to make one or two things really work.
It's definitely a graft. I think that's what people need to realize, isn't it? If they want to pursue something that is in their own, you know, their own passion. If they've got an idea of what they want to do, their dream, they've got to be willing to give up the stuff like, you know, the pool parties, as I always say, the Game of Thrones. As much as Greg don't like me saying it because he loves Game of Thrones, but it's just you've got to give up that stuff. I mean, it might be temporarily, or I mean, I don't know how long you've been doing this, but if it means that much to you and you enjoy it thoroughly, I mean, I think that's the main thing. Is you must enjoy what you do enough to be quite happy staying in on a weekend and giving it up to work on your business, right?
Yeah, it's you know, and I'm by no means a workaholic. I'm a resultsaholic. You know, if I could get results without a lot of work, I'd do that. But you know, but you know, I'm my astrological sign. I'm a Libra, and Libras love balance, and I'm definitely that. I don't particularly like working on the weekends. I like doing a lot of different things, and so I do make time for myself, and I do have pleasure, and I think I'm a better business person and leader and entrepreneur as a result of, you know, getting out of the office and getting out of my home office as well, and being out in the world and having relationships and being healthy. And I really spend a lot of time taking care of myself and a very lot of self-nurturing rituals. And I think it makes me a much better leader and business person. But at the same time, there's still so much more that I have to either postpone or say no to. And it's not that I'm saying never, right? But I'm just saying not now to certain things, which could be like, do you want to go on this trip? Do you want to do this thing? Do you want to join this league? Do you want to be a part of this or that or whatever? And you know, and for a period of time, it's not now. And I mean, you know, I think in young people in particular, with the internet and social media and overnight stars and Instagram, you know, is 10-month-old company with 9 people and sold for $1 billion, and you know, all of these sorts of stories that people like really think it can happen very, very, very quickly. And it's a little, you know, Bobby Knight, the coach, who say, you know, everyone wants to win a championship, but nobody wants to practice. And so, you know, it takes this, you know, being an entrepreneur is an incredibly hard thing. It just takes an incredible amount of patience and hard work. And so it's the sort of thing that people have to have the expectations that this is not the sort of thing where you throw together a business plan, you have the minimum viable sort of like app prototype, and you get a bunch of funding, and then you exit for $50 million 7 months later, and you're, you know, in Saint Tropez, like laughing. Like that's just like not generally how it's going to go.
No, I totally agree. And I think coming back again to the sort of startup stages, I think one thing that you mentioned it earlier, which I want to touch on as well, a lot of people do question, is whether they should be looking to get some kind of investment funding or whether they should just go all in. So I want to really touch on, you said you've obviously self-funded the whole thing, 100% own that shit. I love that. But can you just tell us how much, if somebody was realistically looking to go into this field with intentions of achieving great success from it, what sort of, how much should they be looking at really putting into their business?
Well, you know, there's many ways to skin that cat, and I think that there are, you know, it's contextual to what you're trying to achieve. You know, if I was, you know, I know someone that lives in the Lower East Side here in Manhattan, and he is a baker. He makes baked goods. and his specialty is a certain kind of like chocolate banana bread or something, which I have unfortunately not been able to taste yet, but it sounds amazing. And so like, does he need to go have his own commercial kitchen for $1 million and a fleet of trucks? And you could do that, right? But it could be that he can use like a shared, sort of kitchen or create some sort of partnership and maybe sell to one or two different, coffee shops or bakeries or bodegas or things in his neighborhood is a way to get started and to see if in fact people really like his chocolate banana bread or if banana bread in general is what people are eating these days. And he can learn from that. And so there's the old quote, necessity is the mother of invention. Oftentimes you're more creative when you have fewer resources. Unfortunately, sometimes when companies get a lot of venture capital, when venture capitalists give you money, they want you to spend it. They don't want you to save it. Part of like venture capitalists make money by you spending the money, so then you raise more money, and they make money on the fact that you raise more money, and the valuation of the company goes up. And you have a lot of times unsophisticated young people, spending large sums of money because just for the general purpose they need to spend money. And so I think that, I know many people that have gotten investment and had very good experiences and worked with really credible and helpful and useful investors and whatnot. I know some bad stories as well. And I know people that have tried to bootstrap and that was the wrong strategy. And I know other people that have self-funded and that really worked for them. So it totally depends. I think, the right investors are going to bring you a lot of knowledge and market information. It can help mentor and shape things. And that can be, they're essentially like, you get advisors, you get people that are very smart. The wrong investors are just going to put a lot of demands on your business and making maybe do perverse things that are not what you think are in the right interest of the company, try to assert control over something they may not fully understand. And so for me, I'm certainly open to the idea of taking investors on for pilot and very well may do that someday. I just believe in this so much that I didn't want to spend my time fundraising. And if you're going to fundraise, depending on how much you're going to raise, that process can take 3 to 9 months. If you can do it and if you have a couple friends and family sort of thing and you can do a small round, you can do that relatively quickly. But it generally takes quite a while to fundraise. And fundraising isn't necessarily value added. It's not like when you're fundraising, you're building a product or you're figuring your customers out or designing a brand. You're just merely raising the capital to do all of those things. And so for me, because I had enough cash and I'd saved up enough and invested enough in my life that I chose to do that, even though it was a big bet. I put my life savings into this company. That I wanted to get busy building the company rather than get busy building a fundraising plan.
So how long was it until you actually started to begin seeing results with Pilot?
Well, I think, results are also contextual. So there's results like, pure, cash and profit sort of thing. And many startups that raise many millions of dollars are not profitable. Right, and even though they have a lot of revenue, part of they're investing in growth, and so profit is kind of this holy grail of a lot of startups in particular, but oftentimes it's initial sales and initial revenue, but also it's about growing an engaged base. So a lot of companies use freemium sort of models or paywall or sell up sort of things, and so a lot of that is Gary Vaynerchuk is someone I follow and listen to. And if you haven't seen his stuff on Snapchat is great, but his stuff on YouTube is fantastic, and his books are great. Yeah, he's great, and his office is a block away from mine. And I've been to I've seen him speak in New York, and I see him on the street shooting his videos, and he's great. But he talks about attention being the ultimate currency right now. And so, how do you get the attention of a very saturated marketplace, of a very saturated internet and social media ecosystem? And so part of, results for Pilot is getting that as well. It's growing our email list. It's having people interact with us on like live chat and our customer acquisition tools. It's, social media engagement and following. It's all of those sort of things, plus learning, be getting a greater sense of our product market fit, understanding who our target customer is and what their needs are, et cetera. Like all of those things accrue to a company. And in the early stages, you're kind of accruing a lot of those things at once. As this company starts to get scale and grow and get clearer and achieve product market fit, and you're more into the scaling phase, then it's more about, operational and financial metrics. But a lot of these things, like you're in a high learning phase in the early stages of a company, and that's part of what you're accruing as performance.
Yeah, and I know Gary focuses a lot on his brand, doesn't he? He's all about the brand, the
Yes.
value he provides, which again, I want to sort of link with that insofar as, as you were just saying, there's a lot of, it can be a saturated market and there is a lot of saturated businesses out there. I mean, how many times, I don't know how many times you've gone on the internet and seen live a laptop lifestyle or trade Forex or, home business this or coaching this. Like it's what you see pretty much everywhere. Network marketing, it's obviously a popular thing at the moment, but again, there's a part of that where you need to try and differentiate from what other people are doing, especially if you're going to go into the same route of business, and you need to do something that's unique. And I suppose that's where the whole focusing on branding would come into it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, brand is one way of differentiating, so if you think about competitive advantage, and I kind of go back to being a management consultant and consulting on strategy, like why you? Why are you different? I worked in the airline business, and sometimes your competitive advantage would be cost. If you're a low-cost provider, you can sell tickets for lower prices because you have lower costs. Oftentimes airlines sell tickets for low prices independent of the cost. But, if you think of like Ryanair or something like that, like that's their advantage, and maybe your advantage is operations like, FedEx, if I'm going to ship something, I ship it FedEx if I want it to really get there. I don't ship it through the postal service or through other carriers. It's FedEx, but it's the most expensive, but their operations and are guaranteed money back guarantee on their express service. That's their competitive advantage. It may be on high-end service. It may be, you're going to go to a Four Seasons hotel or Ritz-Carlton or something like that. Their advantage, they're very expensive, and they may not be that efficient. It may take a long time to check in those things, but you may get like really great service. And so I think you have to understand like why you're different or why you are better. And brand can be a part of it, but the brand should really just be helping to express what your strategic advantage is. So brand in and of itself, like having a cool brand is great, but like if your advantage is that you're much like younger or more progressive in a space, like that's one thing. Like Pilot, we've invested a lot into our brand, and I am very proud of our visual identity. We did a lot of work to do that, the name, et cetera. In the space of careers and career management, things are ugly and they're old and they're staid and they're conservative and they're just awkward. We did a photo shoot with models, a diverse casting of people in some beautiful spaces. And so our social media and our website has a lot of original imagery that's not a stock image anywhere. And so our website looks better than other websites in our industry or indirect competitors or substitute products because we don't have awkward pictures from the 90s of someone holding some massive cell phone and a baby in their arms in the middle of a conference room with an ancient laptop, and that's what's in the stock image gallery, And so from a brand perspective, we wanted to basically be like our content and our approaches are incredibly progressive and at the bleeding edge of what's relevant in the world. If you want to know like advice that's good for now, not advice that was good 20 years ago, Pilot's your company. So our brand reinforces our approach, our products, our services, the things we do. Like the Job Renovator is a very, personalizing retention is a very progressive approach. Well, our brand and our marketing should be very progressive, so it's in concert, it sings, it's in a dance with those things.
And it's not to mention as well, I think you forget to say that it's very unique as well. Everything after browsing your website and going through social media handles and talking to you now, Pilot is a very unique concept. It's a very unique business, and everything like you just said, you're not using stock images, doing things on your own, and really just making things, and gonna say it again, unique.
Yeah, it's one of the things in terms of knowing. Sometimes you don't even know your own strengths, and Gary talks about this a lot. Is asking people what you're really good at and what you're really not, and kind of going all in, doubling down on your strengths. And I'm completely a believer in that. Marcus Buckingham, who's a researcher at Gallup and a great speaker and an author, strengths-based leadership and strengths finder, that sort of thing. And one of the things I've been doing some live video, some Q&As of career questions, and we've been using, live video is a very hot thing right now on the internet. Like Facebook and Twitter both are biasing it above almost all other content types, including paid, if it's generated, natively through their platform. And so we're using live. And one of the things I didn't realize, and it was actually my mother who told me this, she's like, you're very good on your feet. You're very quick. Anything someone throws your way, you seem to be able to kind of handle or answer. If you can't, you say really candidly you can't. And you like the kind of dynamic nature of those things. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, but like everyone's that way, of course. That's just what you do. And she's like, no. Like not everyone's that way. A lot of people want the questions in advance and they want to think through the answers and have things pre-prepared. And so like I didn't even know that one of my competitive advantages and one of Pilot's is the fact that I'm very good on my feet. I'm quick and dynamic in that regard. And so like we want to exploit that, because that's not something, if someone came along and tried to do something similar, would they be able to do that? Maybe or maybe not. Probably not. So why don't we try to use that, because it is unique and special about me and about us.
Yeah, no, I agree. And for one, you've proven that, because we've even thought of more questions off the back of what you've said and thrown them in, so you wouldn't have seen any of these, and you've answered them perfectly. And I know Greg's going to take us to the rocket round now, where we ask these 5 quick questions. But just before we do, what you were saying about, again, your whole website being everything that's your own content, I think as well that builds a bit of a trust, because there is a lot of the same things going around. You see the same things going on, and it's good to see things that are completely different and very unique in a way. And I would say that we've tried to do that with our website as well. It's very unique. We've made sure everything, I mean, we focus a lot on branding, because from our perspective, seeing things that is quite branded sometimes builds a bit more of a trust with a business. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but if I see something that is branded, it's unique, it's their own content, I tend to trust it more than seeing something that's, I don't know, copying other types of content and not really focusing on the brand so much.
Well, there's a saying in advertising, make up for in presentation what you lacked in content, and it's the thing is that you can that people really like how it's packaged matters. I got a watch from my friend has a startup, and she sent me this watch that I bought, I pre-ordered, and it's a very cool watch. I got to choose online what it was going to be, but then it arrives yesterday, and it has this like really incredible packaging, and then it's Tinker, Tinker is the name of the company, and my friend Eva and a couple of her friends run this company, and I was so blown away by that packaging, and that's in the physical sense. But on your website or your social, you have to think about whatever you say, be it your advice or your perspectives or whatever, has a context, has a wrapper around it, and increasingly humans are very visual learners. Technology has incredibly raised our standards in the last 5-10 years of like what design is. A lot of people didn't understand like kind of what good taste was or good design at a kind of mass consumer level. But what's happening is you're getting things that are like incredibly like elegant and beautiful, and from, if you're going to go to design theorists and things like that, award-winning design is coming to the masses, and so like our standards as consumers has gone way up. So not only to be to kind of keep up, you have to have it look at least half decent, because if you go to some janky looking website and everything looks just kind of like unformatted or weird images or problems, like you just don't even trust it. And then in particular, if it's really well done, like I don't know about the quality of the quartz inside of the Tinker watch or the where the leather was made. I don't know about those things, but by virtue of the fact that it's in this really thoughtful, cool, elegant packaging, I assume it's a higher quality watch.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree that image is a lot, and it says a lot. It speaks, doesn't it?
100%. Okay, so what we're going to do now, Ben, we are going to go into the 5-question rocket round. So basically the 5-question rocket round is where we ask you 5 quick questions. So again, you're going to have to put your talent in thinking on your feet into action on this one. So are you ready for your first question?
Oh, now it's a test. You guys are going to pick some like super hard ones, and I'm going to look like a big jerk for saying that I'm quick on my feet, and I'll be flat-footed like a moron, But no, I am completely ready for this round.
Brilliant. Okay, so can you name one morning ritual that you do every single day to help you focus?
Meditation. I meditate every morning, and I miss meditating probably 3 or 4 times a year. And whenever I do, I kind of have a rough day. It's now a completely dependent part of my routine, and it's about 20 to 25 minutes, depending, but minimum 20 minutes every morning. I practice Vedic meditation, and if I'm home, I have a chair in my living room that I sit in, and I, sit quietly and repeat a mantra to myself, and it's an incredibly important thing. If you Google famous people who meditate or people who meditate, you'll be shocked at the number of people who meditate. There is so much going on in my head that it is it's like taking a warm bath for my brain and has me feeling refreshed. And I'll meditate probably, I've got a tech event I'm going to later at NYU, New York University, later tonight. I'll meditate before I go there, and it's a very refreshing sort of ritual.
It's definitely something that we would 100% recommend. Both myself and Brad, we do it on a daily basis, and it's, again, like you said, it's just a refreshing moment for you to just gather your thoughts and think about what's coming and what's happened.
Your brain can get quite busy at sometimes. So I think sometimes it's good just to clear it and start again, isn't it? Ben, if you could go back to the 21-year-old version of you, what advice would you give yourself?
I think I would be a lot nicer to myself and to relax. I saw Oprah Winfrey was speaking at Stanford University, and I've always admired her. First self-made female billionaire, I think, in the world. And, that I've been very anxious in my life, and more so than I actually realized until recently. And I think I was always striving and feeling behind and those sort of things. And not that I regret working hard, but I think I would have maybe enjoyed some of it a little bit more if I had just taken a little bit better care of myself personally and in particular been a little less hard on myself and enjoyed more of the moment.
Definitely. I think that's a good tip for any of our listeners to take from you right now. So our next question is, if you could recommend one tool or resource that you are currently using that could help boost a startup's productivity, what would it be?
It's about getting organized. So you've got to have systems to stay organized. And email is not a system. Email is more of a problem than it is an answer. Email, the technology is over 40 years old, and it's based off a 100-year-old plus, couple 100-year-old plus construct of like the Pony Express and all these other things. Like it's in a very antiquated way. And I know people are like, oh, that's my project management system and my task. Like, no way. So I think the key is, like, we use Asana for Pilot, and that is like our mission control of like who's doing what, where's the status, where's the version, by when. Every morning it sends us an email of what we have to do. It's like having a manager through technology. And then we also use Evernote. And Evernote is kind of like our brain. So if we have a draft of a blog post or a contract we've signed or whatever else, it's all saved in Evernote. And we cross-link an Evernote note into Asana. But that's basically a critical thing. And whether it's those exact tools, there are competitors, to Evernote and to Asana that are very good as well. But it's the idea of having a system where everything goes that everyone uses, so you know where you stand.
Perfect. So that's Asana and Evernote, yeah?
Yeah.
Yes.
Evernote is a great app.
You use that all the time, don't you?
Yeah, I use it religiously at the minute. It's brilliant as well because it's great because as you said, you can share memos, share notes with anybody that's got an account with Evernote. Me and Brad use it a lot, so it's a great tool.
Slightly different question here, Ben. Name one movie that inspires you every time you watch it, or if there's one that has inspired you to take this entrepreneurial journey. Now we've got him thinking on his feet. That's the first time I've heard him pause.
Yeah.
Who wants to be a millionaire? No, I just saw it on the plane the other day again. No, but that is a very good movie. I like watching that. No, I would say that I watch a wide variety of movies, and sometimes it can be documentaries and other things like that. But anytime that there's like a movie about like a comeback or overcoming something, I often like action movies and drama and war and all sorts of other things, like crime, all those sort of things that I think that it really dials up the kind of adventuresome side in me. And even thing I remember watching, it was like Out of Africa, which is like a very old film I saw like a year ago or so. Just the different insights you get out of it. Meryl Streep had a line in that movie, I think, that was, when the gods want to play a joke on you, they answer your prayers, And so I see most of my movies, unfortunately, I see the movie theater I see them in is usually on an airplane. So I'm kind of half asleep watching them, but that's kind of the categories that kind of come to mind.
Cool.
Okay, so the last question that we are going to ask you is one that we ask all of the guests that come on our show. We believe that this is one of the most important questions within the Rocket Round. So, who is your biggest entrepreneurial idol? Who can you recommend to our listeners?
So I think, I mentioned Gary Vaynerchuk earlier. I think what's useful about him, there's so many people I respect in business who have done so many interesting things, both, in a corporate sense or an entrepreneurial sense. I've gotten to learn him. My grandfather was an entrepreneur. My brother-in-law is an entrepreneur. I've learned a great deal from my brother-in-law about entrepreneurial things. And so I've gotten to learn a lot from, but I think what's great about Gary is he packages his knowledge and his awareness and just gives it away. He's very into, I look at him, he kind of takes responsibility for the community, and he is looking to help grow other entrepreneurs, including giving some really tough medicine. And really calling people out on stuff and being pretty aggressive at times, and I think in a productive way. I don't think every voice needs to be like that, but I think he can own that, and he does a great job with that. And so I find him incredibly helpful to read, to see in person, but frankly, his social content is great. His video stuff, he's got a crew that just follows him like everywhere, and he's always going off about stuff. He works 18 hours a day or whatever he says, and I think he does, and so I think that he's a fantastic person for entrepreneurs to follow, and honestly, his core message is work your ass off.
Going back to the question before as to what you said about when we asked what your most favourite inspirational movie is that you can recommend, I personally think that watching videos from Gary Vee and other entrepreneurs as well, that's it. That's motivation in itself. Do you not think? Just by watching them types of videos.
Yeah, no, like just the hustle. Like the being an entrepreneur is such a roller coaster. There are days that I wake up and thank God meditation kind of puts me back on the straight and narrow. But I'll wake up and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? I wish I just had a job. And, things are horrible. And it's fortunately very few days I wake up like that. But the problem is when I do, it's very disorienting. And so sometimes literally watching a video like that when I'm in a taxi or an Uber to an appointment can be a great way for me to shift my attitude and my thinking to be like, nope, this is a part of the journey. I'm in the right place. Rather than feeling bad about feeling bad, I'm like, oh no, feeling bad is a part of the entrepreneurial journey, which means I'm on the right track. And that was one of the things. There's a number of books that I've read that I love, but one that I read in the last 6 months I loved is called Uncertainty. And it's about kind of transforming your anxiety and your fear into fuel for your brilliance. And so a lot of it is really helping you understand that when you're trying to do new-to-the-world things that aren't copycat, rip-off, derivatives, me-toos of other things, truly competitively unique, that of course you're going to face uncertainty and ridicule from others and a lot of exposure to risk. And so then now, rather than having those things that typically humans want to run away from, when I've experienced those things, I go, gosh, I must be on the right track because I'm doing something really special and unique.
Again, we'd just like to say thank you for answering those questions as quickly as you did. You definitely lived up to the statement that you made earlier about being able to think on your feet, which is great.
Awesome.
Cool. Okay, so now we're going to go into part 2 of the questions. These types of questions will focus on the tools and techniques which currently work for you, which might help our listeners. So the first question I'd like to ask you, Ben, is, given the majority of people that are now online, pretty much almost everybody that I know, everybody that Brad probably knows, and it's a bold statement to say that majority of the world are now online in some way, shape or form. Would you consider a website a necessity to starting a business, whether that's a digital business or a traditional one, and maybe even for a local business too? What are your thoughts on that?
Definitely not.
It's not essential.
I made $100,000 in my coaching business before I ever had a website.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
You're going to have to tell us about your techniques now.
You have to wear really short shorts. No, I'm kidding. No. The thing is that I'm all about technology and I'm all about websites, but you have to understand what purpose they're serving. I'll know people that are going to start a business and they have a business that, like, I don't know what they do. They're janitorial business, and they clean, offices or something. Well, they'll spend 3 months building a website. And I say, well, like, what do people do on the website? Like, what do you do on the website? What's a part of the business model? They, oh, well, they get to know about us, and and it's basically a brochure. Like, you can't buy janitorial services on their website. You can't get an estimate. It's just essentially like a little PDF online. And and they think that, and they spend months and thousands or tens of thousands of dollars on that. And at the end of it, all they have is a lot of expense and no revenue. So, I spent $88 on business cards from MOO.com that were beautifully designed with a template of theirs. I didn't even have a logo at the time. And that's how I started my business. And I spent my time having meetings with people and networking and going to events and dinners and things and introducing myself and following up and closing deals and making money. And then eventually I made a website.
Just by putting yourself out there, you managed to get the business out there without the need for a website, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, and here's the thing is that people don't go to websites. Like, it's not like, in 1999, people would go to their AOL portal or whatever, and they would dial in or whatever it was, DSL or whatever it was at the time. And, they'd have bookmarks and the world is very different now. People look at some little object in some social stream about, what David Cameron's legacy is going to be according to something. And they see that for a minute, and they may never go back to the website in which that's posted. They'll just see that one object. So how you, again, attention being the ultimate currency, just because you build a website doesn't mean anyone's going to go to it.
I think that's a very good point. I think our listeners can definitely take something away from that. So
yeah, this is the point of it. Obviously, we get a lot of mixed reviews on that question, so it's good to hear different perspectives. You obviously kept it old school, and you managed to build a business, as you said, doing something that is now quite a big thing to be online about. I see business coaches all over the sort of online space. So to be able to do it without is obviously just, I suppose, what people need to work out is what their actual purpose is behind this, what type of business they're looking for, and where they really want to go with things.
Yeah, and ultimately, when you make a professional services hiring decision, you're hiring an attorney or a coach or maybe a financial advisor or an accountant, I typically tell people that they're making the decision on two criterion, credibility and chemistry. Credibility being, is the person believable? Can they do the job? Do they have the right technical domain knowledge to do it? And then chemistry is, do I like them? You can hire the most brilliant lawyer in the world, but if you see their name on your phone and you don't want to answer because they're a dick, even though they're smart, that's not a good person to work with. And so, what I realized is that, the market was not as worried about my credibility, given my business track record and things, and often I would be a referral business. They were more worried about chemistry. So when I built a website that was much more about chemistry than it was about credibility.
Sure. Oh, that's brilliant. Okay. So it's going to I want to sort of lead into this now, the sort of social media side of things. So for Pilot especially, because obviously you mentioned business coaching was mainly offline as well. Social media, how is it sort of worked with Pilot, and is there a particular platform that you would say has been the most effective for it?
Well, so social media is obviously this constantly moving target, and every platform has got a different kind of context, and so creating a campaign and then jamming it into all the platforms often is not a good way to do social media, because what works on Snapchat but doesn't work on LinkedIn, And so, for us, we're still very much in the learning stages. I think that, that Twitter, basically on all the platforms, if you're on early, that helps. And so we're not early to Twitter. We're not early to Facebook, And then companies, Facebook's the largest advertising company in the world. So company posts, organic company posts, generally don't get viewed. I can look at the analytics and, no one's looking at them. Now, you can pay to post to promote them, and then people do look at them. So it's definitely become a pay-to-play game on a lot of the platforms for companies. For individuals, it's less so, but for companies, it's totally different. And that's what people don't realize. They have their Facebook account as a person, and they think that's how it works as a company. It's super different. Even even doing something like people want to do a live stream, live Facebook Live, your profile has to be verified. You have to send your incorporation papers to Facebook to verify that you're a real company. You can't just go on and click the button. It's just a different game in a different world. So, so I think for us, being on a platform where it's contextually relevant matters. So like LinkedIn, when people are on LinkedIn, they're thinking about work, their careers, jobs, networking, development. And so I had a whole call this afternoon about upping our game there, because our analytics show that if 100 people went to all of our social media platforms, by far, LinkedIn is the most productive in terms of engagement and traffic and conversion of all the social platforms for pilot. Now, if I had a janitorial business, that may not be the case. You know, it may be Twitter or Facebook. It may be something, it may be Google Maps. It may be something else. So I think that it's very contextual to business. Just because LinkedIn, is starting to work for us doesn't mean it's going to work for anybody else, depending on who your customers are as well. But, I think Twitter is very difficult to win. We use all of them. We have Instagram, we have Pinterest, we have YouTube. I mean, we have it all, but different platforms for different reasons for different audiences.
Cool. Okay, then so the last question that we want to ask you is, what should somebody be doing to get started within your targeted niche, for them to be able to go from stage 1 to success?
So you want me to help make other competitors? I'm kidding. I'm like, realize that I'm going to crush you, so don't start.
I love the confidence.
Yeah, that's the American bravado, I guess. What I would say is that the thing that I tell people is this seems like seemingly obvious, but people do the exact opposite, is focus on making money, not spending money. So people start a business and all they do is have expenses. It's like expense, we're going to do this, we're going to do this and this. Focus on making money. Spend your time on getting deals and pricing things and putting proposals out there and selling and try to spend as little money as you can. I mean, I invest, I spend money on things and people, and certainly am not frugal by any means. I think I'm responsible, but I'm certainly not. There are certain people that are kind of cheap on business. That is not me, but I'm much more interested in generating a lot of revenue than I am about managing expenses either up or down. Make the focus on revenue and getting deals.
Perfect.
Great.
That's brilliant. Yeah, I mean, you've answered every question just how we knew you would have been. Very, very valuable session that our listeners are going to take some great value from and give them a kick up the arse to get started on their business. So just to wrap it up, we've got a couple of things we want you to tell our listeners. I know you mentioned there's a special offer about coaching that they could actually track you down on. So do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Sure thing. So let me tell you about two things for your listeners. So one, if the Job Renovator, where you create your own strategy and action plan to find more happiness at work, and in particular, if you're trying to do a side hustle as an entrepreneur, you should have your job be less taxing, right? You should be happier, because if you're happier, you'll have more energy to be successful in your side hustle as an entrepreneur. Check out the Job Renovator. It's $149 US, and I've got a deal where for the listeners of this podcast, you can get half off, 50% off. And if you use the promo code B2 Loves Me, so B, letter B as in boy, number 2, loves, LOVESME. And so that's Ben Brooks, B2. B2 Loves Me. 50% off in the checkout. You'll see if you go to pilot.coach and click Job Renovator, there'll be a field for the promo code. Just type in B2 Loves Me, and it'll automatically give you 50% off. And, the experience, you do a reassessment after 45 days. We send you content after the fact. We can give you advice. It's a fantastic experience. It's the equivalent of about $2,000 in coaching. In fact, someone at a large insurance company who has worked with a coach for 2.5 years just did the product yesterday and told us it was the equivalent of working with his coach for 2 years, and he did it in 90 minutes. So, not looking to put any coaches out of business, but if you're looking to, don't have the money for a coach or don't want to spend that, try out the Job Renovator. The second thing is Minute Coaching. This is a product we launched literally yesterday. And Minute Coaching is building off of a social media experiment I did about 1.5 years ago called Make It Happen Monday. And what Minute Coaching is doing is giving people bite-sized executive coaching to be more effective as both employees and entrepreneurs in just a minute. And the way it works is there's a new session essentially every week from me. And it's a highly produced video, high-quality video and motion graphics and all that, and it has a very specific, focused insight, sort of lesson. And then in an SMS-like interface, it's just like using your mobile phone, I ask you a question about how you're going to apply that insight to your life, to your business, and what you're going to do in the next week. And you simply fill that out very quickly and give us your email address, and we actually hold you accountable. my trainer at the gym, when I go to the gym, he makes sure that I, did my other workouts in between or that I ate right. He holds me accountable, so I have better results. So we do the same thing, again, all for free, and this takes just a minute every week. But, we hold people accountable and let them know about the next sort of coaching session. So this is, a new experiment for us, something we're incredibly excited about. It's very much kind of the way of the future. We have some ideas, if this works, about how we're going to integrate this within some other apps and things. But it's Pilot Minute Coaching. And again, if you go to our website, it's www.pilot.coach, COACH. www.pilot.coach/minute. You'll get to minute coaching. It's in the header. It's easy to find, but if you go to pilot.coach/minute, you can sign up there in about 4 seconds, and you're ready to get right into minute coaching. And we've already gotten some great responses from it. And we're going to be providing some additional kind of surprises and delights for people that participate. So that's a great thing for all of your listeners to check out. And please share, because it's a nice, useful thing where rather than buy someone a book or something like that, like get them involved in this minute coaching thing where they're going to work on their behaviors and have accountability over a period of time and kind of be in it together, be partners in it.
And that's just 1 minute a week, did you say, Ben?
Yeah, that was it. That was, it was one of the things that, my coaching sessions typically with clients are about 60 to 75 minutes. And I thought, what's the sort of thing where we could really blow people's mind? And it's like, wow, if you could develop and move your career forward in just a minute a week, watching a video and answering one simple question and applying the insight within the next couple of days, that would be transformative. That's very next generation thinking with busy professionals that, if you don't have time, you think about the percentage of non-fiction books that people buy that they don't read. It's got to be tremendous, right? Some of those books should probably be classified as interior decorating, not really literature, because, they just fill shelves. And so, and I love books, and I would love to write one day. I'm not against books, but I am for progress and results. And so that's where we wanted to create minute coaching in a way that people could actually consume it amongst their busy lives on the go. It works on Android and it works on iPhone, mobile, anywhere in the world. It's very simple. So check out Minute Coaching. We'd love your feedback on it too, because we always want to make the product better. And you can chat with us at any time from our website or send us an email.
Definitely. And I think that's definitely something our listeners are 100% going to be able to take away from this. I know that me and Brad are going to hit up the 1 minute.
Definitely. No, I was just going to say, yeah, definitely. That sounds great. I was just going to say, we're saying this for our listeners, but I think I'd like to join in.
Yeah, same. So Ben, how can our listeners get in contact with you via social media? What's the best way? You mentioned that you're on pretty much everything.
Yeah, I'm on pretty much everything. So we've got me, and then we've got Pilot, and we've got different profiles for that. So Pilot, our website, at the bottom of our website is all of our social media. There's little icons for all of that. We're typically, Pilot_Inc. on, Twitter and on Instagram, and I think we're facebook.com/pilot.coach. But again, if you go to our website, it's all there. I'm Ben Brooks, NY, as in New York. Ben, BENBROOKS, NY, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on YouTube. Most places you go, that's how you can find me. And or follow Pilot on Facebook as well, because we're doing a lot of live sharing there, and you get alerts when that happens. So would love to connect and offer up any help and support I can have to other entrepreneurs or people in their careers. I'd love to create a large community. There's a lot of ideas we have around kind of connecting people over time and mutual success and sharing stories. And so we want to grow a very big tent, and particularly just around the world. We don't limit this just to the States, even though we're a U.S.-based company. I think over time we want to thoughtfully expand around the world.
Sounds absolutely awesome. Buzzing for that, yeah. And as you said, all of those special promo codes and everything, we'll put all of these links in our show notes, so all of our listeners can easily access all of them. Very exciting news. Thanks so much, Ben, for coming on the show. You've been absolutely awesome. Another great one to the list. And yeah, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners? Any sort of last minute advice you could give to our listeners before we leave?
Well, I had a moment a number of years ago. I had my own coach, and I was completely overwhelmed. My mind was like, a traffic jam of thoughts. And, he was like 68 or so at the time, very bright guy. And he just said, and entrepreneurs can be the same way. He's like, horseshit. He's like, if you have time to think of all of those thoughts, you're not overwhelmed. It's that you're not busy enough. So get busy being busy so you don't have all of this time to think of all this crap. And I think for entrepreneurs, the secret of entrepreneurialism is a lot in the doing, not in the thinking. So getting into action, starting with something today, moving something forward. Don't, the things you do in big companies, you plot and you plan and you socialize and you draft decks and all that stuff does not make you successful as an entrepreneur. It's like trying things out. It's taking action. It's making calls. It's setting up meetings. It's making proposals. It's getting the invoices out. It's just, deploying something, sending something on social. Like, get busy doing something. Those are my parting words.
That is a brilliant last minute tip for any of our listeners to take from this. So again, thank you for coming on the show, Ben. We really do appreciate it. For all of our listeners, everything that was mentioned in today's episode, we will put them in the show notes for everybody to go to. And yeah, I think that kind of wraps it up nicely.
Definitely. Well, thanks again, Ben, for coming on the show, and enjoy your tech meetup that you're going to now.
All right. Cheers.
Thank you, Ben. So then, guys, what an amazing episode it has been. We hope you've taken away some super tips and advice from today's episode and from our special guests. And don't forget, you can replay this show or check out any of the show notes by visiting our website at www.stageonestartup.com/podcast. But before we leave you, we'd just like to put the icing on the cake. We always like to finish the show with our current and most special announcement, the S1S contest. Anybody can enter. All you need to do is follow the rules of the game, which Brad is about to tell you. But first, here's what to expect to win from the contest. You will win 1 year's free subscription to LivePlan, 5 free entrepreneurial books chosen by myself and Brad. You will also win a personalised S1S t-shirt with the winner's name on it. Could it be any better? Now, Brad, if you could just tell our listeners what they have to do to be in with a chance to win.
Always a pleasure, Greg. So, guys, all you need to do to enter the contest and have your chance of winning these amazing startup gifts are: number 1, subscribe to the podcast; number 2, leave a tasty review for us; and number 3, give us a big fat 5-star rating. Once you've done that, take a super selfie of you holding a note that says done, #GiveMeS1S. You can post this on Instagram, Twitter or Facebook, but make sure you tag us in the picture as well as put in the hashtag into the description, as we will be doing the search for entries by using the hashtag. Visit our website on the stageonestartup.com/podcast page to see the end of contest date and when we will be revealing the winner. We'll also be giving our winner a shout out on the podcast to congratulate them.
So then, guys, it is literally that simple. You've got to be in the game to win the game. Thanks so much for listening to today's show. We really do appreciate everybody who has tuned in to take tips and advice from today's guests. We will continue to make it our priority to provide you with the best of the best so that you can go from launching your business from stage 1 to success. Goodbye for now, guys, and we shall see you in the next episode.
Houston, we're back.
Thank you for listening to the Stage 1 Startup Podcast. If you're looking to launch your own business idea, visit stageonestartup.com for recommended resources and step-by-step guidance to help you succeed. Prepare for takeoff.